Hi, it's Toby from Heavywgt MMA. Today, talking about a big fight card coming up in London, July 24th. Tom Aspinall against Curtis Blaydes. It's a Scouser fest. We've got Paddy Pimblett, Molly Meatball McCann, and Darren Till on the card. Very pumped for this show. Have a listen to me and Colby Thicknesse, Volk's training partner, chat about the fights. Fuck yeah, man. We're going to London soon, bro. On July 23rd, we got Curtis Blaydes versus Tom Aspinall. First fight I wanted to chat about is Jordan Leavitt, Monkey King versus Paddy Pimblett, the Scouser that doesn't get knocked out but nearly gets knocked out every fight. Should be kind of cool.
Oh man, it should be it should be an exciting matchup. I'm curious to see how Leavitt's going to perform against Paddy. There's obviously Paddy has all the hype and everything like that, but I think Leavitt's sort of getting a little bit slept on. He's fairly dangerous. He's fairly well-rounded. So I think personalities aside and post-fight dance, twerking and everything like that, put that away, I think it's actually going to be a pretty sort of compelling matchup.
Yeah, man. Like you look at Leavitt, like he's not a flashy guy, and that's why they choose him, right? Like Paddy Pimblett's an explosive sort of guy, and then Jordan Leavitt's kind of under the radar a bit. And if you're looking at a list of opponents and you're watching their performance, you look at Leavitt and you think, well, he's not going to fucking starch me, is he? He's not going to knock me out, probably. He's only got 1 KO in his 11 fights, 10 wins. And you think this guy might be the guy. If he can cancel out his jiu-jitsu, which I'm not so sure he can, if Paddy can cancel out Jordan's jiu-jitsu, he should have a pretty easy night in a way.
Yeah, I think that's what it's going to end up coming down to, is that as good as Paddy, you can't really say good. He's looked decent on the feet in his last few fights, where he's obviously got clips, but he's finished his opponents. But also we've seen he's very hittable. He likes to his offense is good. He's creative. He's strong in his offense, but his defense leaves a bit to be desired. He starts throwing his hands. They drop down to his hips before he comes back. He has his sort of real straight up posture, and his chin's always on that center line. So I think if he can start implementing a bit of head movement and just sort of, instead of going like A to B to drop, just bring him in straight back to the chin and staying defensively sound, it's going to be a pretty tough task for Jordan. But then again, I also think surely the fact that he blows out so big will eventually have to start catching up to him, sort of thing. Like, it's all right to put on a couple of kilos off your sort of walk around weight, like most fighters do. They get a little bit big, but he specifically is fighting only 2 or 3 times a year, so he can do these massive balloons up and down, which is, at the end of the day, it's detrimental. Like, you can't say it's not, sort of thing. Like, obviously he's still probably going to make the weight, look like a professional out there, but down the line, man, like, even just the actual factor of it, like, imagine if you didn't put on an extra 5 or 6 kilos. That's an extra couple of 100 calories a day that you're eating to fuel them workouts, which might not seem like a big thing, but over the course of spans, it can be the difference between pushing 90, 95% and then being able to give 100% in all your workouts because you're adequately fueled for it. But because the sort of weight cycle is so aggressive and big for him, I think it will sort of, I don't know. It's only his 3rd fight UFC. It might not be sort of enough to catch up to him, but I don't think if we're going to see him bust into these top ranks that he's going to be able to keep it up for much longer.
It's a question though. Like he's got a lot of fights, man. 21 fights. So I didn't follow him early in his career to know. But when I saw him in those fights, he looked pretty skinny as well. I wonder if he's been blowing up the whole time in between, because if he has, that would have it
He has. I remember he did say he has, but the thing is, his last one was the biggest he's blown up in between. Where I think he said he got up to like 92 or 93 kilos, which is
fucking hell.
Obviously, it's a lot of like water weight and everything like that, but that still is a lot of fucking weight to put on. And I think he has a vlog on his YouTube channel. It was either a week or 2 weeks after his fight, and he jumped on and it was 92 kegs.
Jesus,
which is nuts.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's crazy. And I heard a few people say with that mentality, there's no way he's going to be champion. I don't know if we can really tell, like, could he change it around? But surely your body is like, if your body's used to operating on a leaner frame, it's going to be more beneficial, right? Like if he can just drop X amount of kilos at the camp and his body gets used to not losing too much, then it's going to be easier for him, right? Like it must be hard at that sort of weight. Dropping that weight becomes your whole focus. It just becomes a fat camp, right?
Exactly right. Like, I don't see how, obviously, like there was because Geordie, fight dietitian, he did a good episode with Paddy's nutritionist or something like that. But even he said the thing now is with Paddy is like he's making good money off of income by going over to these restaurants and playing. So it's almost like another revenue thing for him. So fair play for him for that. But then you got to start weighing it up. Like obviously it's different, but you look at people like Rousey and that who had somewhat success, but then when they tried to pursue too many other avenues, it started to affect their fighting. And realistically, this could be one. Like obviously it gets the clicks. It looks funny when he looks shredded, then a week later he's got big chipmunk cheeks and everything like that. But at the end of the day, do you want to be like sort of elite level professional sort of year round and be your absolute best? Or do you sort of want to be disciplined for the 12 weeks, go for rails and just rinse and repeat that cycle?
That's it. I just noticed Whale Rider, now he's upgraded. Now he's Whale Rider 3001, bro, because he got he got barred for doing something.
Talking shit probably?
Yeah, getting G'd up and arguing with people probably. Is that what happened?
Wow. Don't waste your energy on him. They're a bunch of it's not worth it, bruv. My brother's lost like 6 accounts, so I know all about it.
I saw I can't remember once I was on some chat and Whale Rider was having a go at some guy and they were biting back at each other, and then that's what it must be, eh?
Just loves a good G up.
Loves a good banter. Hey, so when you look at Jordan Leavitt, man, he's an awkward guy. That's what can fuck Paddy up. Like I feel like Paddy's probably the favorite in this from my perspective. On the odds, he's favorite 1.36 to 1 versus 3.08 to 1. But Leavitt's awkward as fuck. His record's super good. Watch the way he moves, like it's fucked up, and he just keeps smashing that lead leg. Like he just keeps tapping it from a southpaw stance too, and he just keeps cracking it with his right leg. Just a normal leg kick, but no switch or anything. He just pops it in. He stomps it. He calf kicks. If he can get that happening early, that might pay some sort of dividends later. Like seeing his other opponents so a bit damaged on the leg as the fight went on, and just be annoying, like if he can do the distance, if he can keep up with Paddy's explosiveness and not get cracked too hard, that sort of thing might work out for him. And his weird sort of movement, like he's got a weird sort of style about him, Yeah,
he's very sort of just unorthodox and offbeat sort of thing, like you were saying, where he's not the sort of guy who I think it was Paddy's first opponent in UFC. I forget his name, but he was happy to sort of almost fight like it was like you see a lot of guys do it, and they do it like a K1 drill sort of thing, where it's your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn. And it's just go for go, block what you can, return what you can, and eventually one of you is going to crack or something like that. Whereas Leavitt isn't there to be there. He's going to hit. He's going to look to get his angle, create distance, and sort of I think that's going to realistically, I don't think Paddy's fought someone like this in UFC yet, so we could see it start to frustrate Paddy, and then we might see him start to overextend on shots and that. I think the biggest sort of tell for how this fight will be is how do the first couple of grappling exchanges and scrambles goes. Is Paddy able just to get a nice throw or a trip, get him on his back and stay on top pretty securely? Or is Leavitt super scrambly, hard to take down? If he hits him out, he's already fighting and get back up, or he's threatening submissions. He's not really letting Paddy establish a top threat, because if he does go to the second way I said, like real scrambly, not accepting anything that on the ground scrambles, I think it could be a sort of a tough challenge for Paddy, especially over 15 minutes, as Leavitt's gas tank's always there, and it's gonna he's always there, he's always fresh. He doesn't have the biggest power sort of thing. He's not sort of, you wouldn't really expect him to knock Paddy out, but you can expect him just to keep touching him and just keep doing enough to sort of really just get sort of Paddy agitated and overextended. Then he can really crack him with some bigger shots.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said. Like that Luigi Vendramini was the first one he fought, and then Rodrigo Vargas. Both of them exactly like you said. They're just like that real normal rhythm. They're the guys you can train with, you can fight with.
Look good against.
You know what's coming. It's a real clean rhythm, And when you look at those two, Paddy's probably the one that was a bit more awkward because he's got a little bit of an awkward style about him too, like real explosive and slightly off timing as well. But this time it's going to be the other way around. He's going to be more normal, and Leavitt's like that weird one. And it's the same on the ground, right? Like he's a black belt, Paddy Pimblett. Jordan Leavitt, I don't know if he's a black belt, but he smashes a few people with submissions and some interesting submissions too. So is Paddy the better grappler, or is Jordan the better grappler? What do you reckon, man, in your eyes from what you've seen?
To be honest, I think Paddy will be the better grappler. I think he's a little bit slicker. I think he has a little bit better fundamentals. Plus, also, thing is, it is MMA, whereas Paddy is a little bit more of a pure jiu-jitsu side where he doesn't mind the ground and pound, but he's sort of like, say if he's on turtle on someone, he will go to his back to take the back, which is different from a sort of more like, say, it could be MMA grappling approach where if he's on the turtle, he's going to flatten you out so he can sort of try and finish the fight there sort of thing. So I think for where I'm going with this is I think that Leavitt has the grappling pedigree, though, that if Paddy tries to use sort of pure grappling to beat him, and so say if he's on a seatbelt off the turtle and he does roll to the back, I think he's going to be fine there. I think for him to finish on the ground, he needs to start to look to jam him and get him sort of stuck in uncomfortable positions, then use the hands to open up the submission threats, where I don't think he can sort of just try and cut through, like use a jiu-jitsu sort of style game where he's just going to get top pressure, look for a sort of a back, because he loves it back. He's going to look for the back to finish. But I think someone against Leavitt, it's going to be a safer option to try and flatten him out, don't get him on his back, and sort of keep him that turtle and sort of try and keep an arm or something and look to expose the neck that way.
Yeah, man. I think that, like, you look at the two of them and, like, for straight away, you kind of see that it's Paddy Pimblett's team and that agreeing to someone they think they can beat, right? Like, on the feet, he's a beast, really. Even if he does take shots, he's explosive and young and fit.
Plus, he's got a chin.
Yeah.
He's got a chin.
True, he's got a chin. He likes testing it a bit. And then Jordan's got like zero explosiveness, like slow twitch fiber. Like he can keep going, like you said, with the same pace for the whole fight. That's where Paddy falls down. But is it going to be enough to withstand that onslaught? And I looking at him, I kind of think Jordan might be a little bit more unorthodox, not only in the standing but also in the grapple. So he may have a chance of pulling something out of the bag that Paddy isn't really ready for. But I think, again, maybe not physically as strong. So yeah, it seems to be in the bag for Paddy, but I think a lot of people will be hoping, including Wow Rider, hoping that Jordan takes him out.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Like, picking a fight, I'm going to have to pick Paddy, and going off how it looks, you're going to probably have to pick him by the submission. But I wouldn't be surprised if Leavitt can sort of, maybe he might not get a win, but I think he's going to do a very good showing for himself regardless, sort of thing. I don't think this is going to be sort of Paddy first round finish sort of thing. I think it goes, and I think it probably goes second or third round, I think, before Paddy can catch him in a sub. But yeah, it's interesting. I think it's going to be a good test for Paddy. I wish they would have gave him the Ottoman fight, because that would have been a chuck him straight to a sharks to that one sort of thing. But we got this instead, and it's going to be interesting.
I'm thinking Paddy by some sort of flurry, whether it's just him running forward, punching him in the head many times, or getting him down in some, like Jordan Leavitt pulls guard or something and gets pounded into the ground. I feel like it'll be some sort of flurry in the first round from Paddy. It's what he seems to go for. And, he's been successful so far, and Leavitt's too slow to like kick off so fast. If it does drag on to later rounds, it'll be more interesting though for everyone, because we'll be able to see Paddy Pimblett put to the test a little bit more. Yeah.
Who do you reckon Paddy calls out after?
Paddy calls out no one. He just waits for his management team to decide who's the easiest fight next as he slowly waits out.
That's a fair point, eh?
I think that's what they're doing, eh? It's smart, though. They're doing the old Sean O'Malley, like Paul Craig versus Volkan Oezdemir. Paul Craig's from Scotland, fighting for his freedom or something. I don't know.
Pretty sure that's a movie.
I think it's like, I'm getting confused. I thought that was what he was doing. But he paints his face blue, so he's pretty much the same as William Wallace or whoever that fucking person is.
Fuck, I haven't seen that movie, to be honest.
You haven't fucking seen it, bro. The funny thing,
I haven't watched it.
I used to watch it before I fucking fight. That's like a funny thing. It's like one of those G-up movies, you know?
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Braveheart, yeah. Suss it out, bro.
Yeah,
I don't know how it aged, because it's been a while since I've seen it too. But it's probably all right. Yeah, so looking at Paul Craig's got a bit of reach and height, 193 centimeter height versus 185 centimeter height. Obviously, he's known for copping a flogging and then flicking up a triangle or this sort of thing, right? Like, he's great off his back, great jiu-jitsu competitor. He had some success just in the BJJ ranks, even some British championships in Abu Dhabi. He got a bronze as well in 75 plus kilos. So he's no slouch when it comes to grappling. Stand-up's pretty average. He's had some good wins, though. He's beaten Krylov, Hill, lost to Tyson Pedro, Roundtree, and Crute. But so he's getting experience, but he's fighting a decent guy who's fought like some of the best in the world. He's fought. So Oezdemir's fought fucking Ankalaev, Prohaska, Ray, Smith, Cormier, beat Rakic, Manawai, Latifi. So, they're both kind of experienced guys. Should be a decent fight, eh?
Yeah, I think realistically, I think everyone knows how this fight's going to be. Is this sort of light heavyweight grappler versus striker dynamic, whereas they're probably going to see Paul come forward, look to pressure, initiate the clinch, or get him up against the fence and start looking for his takedowns there. Whereas Oezdemir's going to be looking to hold the center, stay long behind his straights, because he does have good power. He's a little bit of, not necessarily unorthodox, but he has a bit awkward timing. Everything isn't on the same sort of beat sort of thing. So I think he can crack. Paul Craig does get hit a lot, but like you said, it's sort of Paul's been getting cracked in every single one of his last fights. He either cracks and goes down, or he gets cracked, and with 1 second left in the third round, he puts it on the triangle and subs you. Like, it's insane what he's able to do, sort of thing, with his grappling ability.
That's it, man. And when you look at Oezdemir as well, like he fought against Ankalaev in the clinch, he kind of matched him and he didn't get like bullied in the clinch or anything. And Ankalaev's apparently a decent Greco-Roman wrestler, so you'd expect him to be fully in control, but he wasn't. So I think Oezdemir is not going to be that easy to be taken down. I think he's going to be okay. Like he's reasonably well-rounded, and obviously they're going to be 100% aware who they're fighting, which probably every person who fights Paul Craig is anyway. But yeah, you don't want to engage in letting him sit on his back and try for submissions, right? You want to keep it standing. If it's a clinch, you want to, get out of the clinch and, smash him a few times. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah, it's like we can come on here and talk all about how we think like of the different strategies that, but I think it's more just going to be who can implement the game plan. Right? If Craig can get it to the ground, I'm going to be fairly surprised if Oezdemir might be able to get once or twice up, but after that, I think Paul is probably going to catch him with something. Otherwise, if Paul can't get him down, I think we're just going to see him sort of get in, picked apart on the feet sort of thing.
He gets this full intense guy, right? Have you noticed him in his fights?
I love his energy. His energy is so good.
It makes it much more interesting. And apparently, I think one of the fights I heard that he was having a go at someone in the hotel as well. So I think he just brings that massive full warrior energy in there. And reading about him, he went 8-0 as an amateur, then 8-0 as a pro before he came to UFC. So he's a bit of a force, but it's obviously jiu-jitsu based and not 100% like MMA based, because he seems to be he doesn't seem to offer that much in the stand-up, unless he's been really working on it since then.
Yeah, you can see his stand-up is just a means to implement his grappling sort of thing, whereas he's not completely comfortable. Whereas say if he was to fight a Glover or somewhere down the line where he has to pretty much stay on the feet to win almost, you would think, where he probably isn't able to execute that sort of game plan just yet. Who knows, a few fights down the line, he might be that little bit more comfortable and familiar with it. But right now, I still think his striking is mainly to give a look, just to set up his takedown and then get on the ground where he's really comfortable with it.
I'd love to see that fight. I never thought of it. Glover or Paul Craig. That'd be a sick fight just to see, because Paul Craig isn't going to keep it standing, even though you might think that's a good way. You won't. He'll just fucking fall on his back, and then it'll be interesting to see. If it's a fifth round, he might have a chance. In the first couple of rounds, I don't think he's going to have much chance, right? If you can get through, it'll be interesting. Hey, so what's your final pick on this one, bro?
Oh, I'm going off 2-4 in his last 6 versus, 5-1 in the last 6 sort of thing. Obviously different opposition and everything like that, but I think Paul Craig's going to get it done. I think he's riding in a bit of momentum coming into this fight. He hasn't lost since 2019. He's had 1 draw. I think there's a lot of momentum on his side. Seems like Oezdemir's not really been able to put things together. Obviously, he's only losing to the best, but I think Craig's going to get it done. I think he's going to get bashed, and then he's just going to catch him with a choke or something. I don't know. Typical Paul Craig fashion victory, I think.
Cool. Bro, I'm going the opposite. Oezdemir.
Oh, yeah, I like it.
I reckon he's going to be I think he's just going to be too experienced and keep it standing and, just use his long punches, smash Paul Craig up a bit and win on points or maybe sneak in a KO. Nikita Krylov versus Alexander Gustafsson. It's kind of exciting because this Gustafsson's got a big name around. He's been around for a while. He fought John Jones. He's a gun. He's a gun. And and he's fighting a kind of an up and comer in a way, like more relevant now. Like Gustafsson hasn't been very active. He's had a bit of time off, not fighting so many times over the years. Kylo's been fighting more recently. So yeah, it's kind of interesting one.
Yeah, I thought this was a case where it's Gustafsson's first fight since the heavyweight loss to Verdum. So I think it's good to see him. I think he thought going up to heavyweight was going to be just that easier option. I think he's like, I lost to Jones, I lost to Smith. Maybe I can go up to heavyweight and try and use some more speed in that. But then he came into Verdum and just got, he was doing pretty well on the feet, but I think just the size and that going from a light heavyweight, trying to bulk up to make yourself a heavyweight is a lot different from being a big boy that having to cut down to heavyweight as Verdum has to do, sort of thing. Then again, there's no shame in losing. Like Verdum's a world-class black belt any day of the week, sort of thing. So if he's on top of the ground, he's probably going to end up snatching something. Krylov is an interesting matchup as we just saw him get choked out by the Scottish lad, Paul Craig, and he got out grappled by Ankalaev. But saying that, we don't really expect I don't expect Gustafsson to come into this fight looking to really grapple. I think he's just going to try and use like his more traditional boxing, kickboxing sort of style, stay nice and long jabs, long straights down the middle, chops the leg and just sort of work from there.
I know it's just weird, man. Like he's not old yet, but I kind of look at him like the old school guys. You know what I mean?
Is that Gustafsson?
Like, he's not so relevant these days. Gustafsson, like not so relevant these days, and he's kind of, that back then when he was fighting and successful, the MMA is like jumped in leaps and bounds. Since then, you know what I mean? He's still kind of following the same style, whereas Krylov to me seems a little bit more of that new school sort of guy. Just the way he fights, it just seems a little bit more rounded than Gustafsson. I could be fucking totally wrong. It's just my first impression when I watch him, like when I watch both of their recent fights. And Gustafsson's a gun, but he's still very heavily boxing based. I don't really see him as much of a well-rounded sort of fighter. I don't know, man. I'm not feeling Gustafsson these days. And then you look at, he's usually having a massive height and reach advantage. It's not as big in this one. He's got 2 centimeters height, 4 centimeters reach. He's not massive, right? Like it's a manageable distance, manageable distance for Krylov. And I know I see Krylov is got a stand-up background, Krogish and black belt. He's also got submission. He's got a master's in submission. Some of they have sort of weird university study over in some of these Eastern Bloc countries where you can actually go and do a master's in Sambo or fucking whatever. He's got that.
I want to do that.
It'd be fucking sick, wouldn't it? Like if they offered it in English, how good would that be, man? Have you noticed that on a few of their resumes that has masters?
I haven't, to be honest, no.
Masters of submission grappling or masters of whatever. It's pretty cool. Yeah, they can do it. Like I was just reading that recently. Who the fuck?
Gustafsson seems to be like a little bit on the way up. Like you said, I think obviously his prime's past him. He's 35 at light heavyweight, which it's not as big as a deal being in the heavier weight divisions at that older age. You can see it like 35 for like a flyweight bantamweight. You're like, oh, okay, maybe it's harder in these top echelons. Light heavyweight doesn't matter because power is the last thing to go, so he can still crack. But I think Krylov might just. I think he's going to be a little bit too well rounded. And the biggest thing for me is we haven't seen Gustafsson in enough action lately. Like, so obviously he had that loss. And then before that, it was another year where he had the Anthony Smith. Then it was pretty much another, I can't do math. It was either 6 or 18 months, but we're saying up somewhere in between there where he lost to John Jones that second one. So he hasn't been super active. And the thing is, sometimes you, especially with sort of guys younger in their career, they might not be as active per se on their record, but due to certain circumstances, they're still training full time. They're still developing full time. They're still sort of refining skill sets. You see it with a lot of someone like Sean O'Malley, where he has that USADA suspension. He comes back looking like a brand new fighter because he's still young. He's still learning, still sort of figuring out what's his likes, dislikes, how he moves and everything like that. There's still a lot for him to learn. Whereas at 35 and his age, you won't really see the sort of same leaps and bounds, even having that time off. Even if he is training full time, like it's hard to say that he's going to come back a brand new fighter. So I think the blueprint is sort of there on how to beat him. I think it's mainly up to Krylov if he's going to go out there and sort of execute it.
Man, I'm thinking like I said, I'm kind of leading on Krylov's side. And I'm thinking Gustafsson should, that stinky Swedish fish, bro. I think he should get that shit, rub it all over him. And then Krylov's not going to want to come near him. He can use his boxing. Have you ever fucking seen things on that? There's this stinky fish called something weird, like a weird ass name.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I regret Googling it. Fucking want to do it.
I'll send you later a fucking video. There's a video of these two Aussie guys going and trying it. And it's fucking so stinky that people that are distance away from them and noticing it, like smelling it, it's like the worst thing you could probably eat in the world, maybe. It's terrible.
Hamish and Andy. Shamra Strongin.
That one. Hamish and Andy, they ate it. It was fucking hilarious. You threw up after like trying a bit. This is terrible.
Oh, really?
It's fucking so bad. Anyway, rub that all over yourself.
Yeah, it's fermented herring. Oh.
All right, I reckon it's like poison. Could be. No idea. Anyway, bro, my final pick is Krylov, man, against your better judgment. I think although Gustafsson's going to be better in the boxing, I think Krylov all-rounder. For some reason, I see him. Against Craig, he looked good with the ground and pound, man. I'm seeing him working into the grapple, taking him down somehow, clinch, take him down, and use some good ground and pound to slow him down and, maybe get a KO win on that. What about you?
Yeah, I'm thinking the same way. I don't know if he will get the finish, but I think Krylov should get it done, and I'm going to go with the decision. I think as much as Gustafsson's one of the best to do it in that division, I think it's just sort of past his prime here. I think jumping in between the weight classes, I think he was hoping for something that didn't come to fruition sort of thing. I think they're giving him like not a crazy hard stylistic matchup. So it is a matchup he can win. But I think purely with the age depreciency, Krylov, he's only really lost like 2 of his last 4 losses are the guys who held the belt sort of thing. And arguably, Ankalaev is going to be fighting for the belt 1 or 2 fights from here. So he's only losing to the top of the division. So, yeah, I think Krylov's going to get it done. I think it's going to be a decision. And I think he's going to get it done with sort of pretty clear, sort of all 3 rounds.
Let's have a chat about Molly Meatball McCann versus Hannah Goldy, man. Now, Molly's a scouser. Scousers don't get knocked out. It seems kind of true with her and Paddy. Both of their records, man, both of them haven't been knocked out before. So it's kind of funny that they say that. Eh? They've been subbed and they've been decisioned, but they've never been knocked out. So can she continue that? I don't know. What do you think about this fight?
I think it's going to be a sick fight. But funny, have you seen that clip of Cody Yarborough talking about it?
No.
Oh, he's hilarious. He's like, that Paddy Pimblett, apparently he says he's a sorcerer or something like that, so he can't get knocked out.
Yeah.
He just fucking mispronounces it completely. It's funny as. But I think, it's a good fight for Molly. I think it's going to be her last fight, she looks impressive, but I think that, like you said, she does get knocked out. She always brings that fire to the fight sort of thing. And I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think a lot of the guys with this and females on this London card are sort of giving them a bit more favourable matchups sort of thing, because purely, obviously, you're in London, you want sort of hometown guys and girls to get the win sort of thing. But I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's probably going to go all the 3 rounds because, but then again, Molly did have that massive knockout. So, but her opponent is tough, so it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, man, I would say there's a chance of a fight of the night because these guys kind of both, move pretty nice. They're both like kind of throwing punches and flurries and stuff. And I don't know. It'll be kind of interesting to see. One thing about Goldy, she seems like she's pretty athletic. Like you look at her build and that, man, she looks strong. She looks athletic. Molly McCann doesn't quite look that way, but she seems pretty tough and gritty. So yeah, I think they could clash pretty well, man. It might make for a pretty fun fight, eh?
I think the biggest thing is Molly also has a lot more experience on her side.
That's true.
So I think the experience is coming into deep waters because both these chicks have never been finished via KO, so it's sort of going to lean that way. I didn't get to see Hannah Goldy's last fight. I saw her, loss to Diana, which she sort of just got outclassed everywhere. And obviously Molly's last fight was that sick elbow. And that Jimmy and King fight, that was pretty close. And before that, but it sort of sees that Molly's on like a bit of a career resurgence. And like from the interviews and that, she's sort of talking about like how she thinks she's in it to come for the top and get like a shot of the belt and that. She has the right mentality going into it.
She feeds off that hometown energy too, man. Did you see how that last one, how she came out? She came out so hard. And this is in London again. For sure she's going to do it again. She's going to be coming out, going hard. Just if she can maintain it as well. You saw Goldy also get dropped by a decent punch in her last outing as well. And I'm just wondering, like, can Molly land something hard that drops her? Or can Goldy kind of keep that distance? Because she's got some pretty mad kicks, actually, like pretty nice high kicks, Goldy. And she also seems pretty strong in the clinch. So I think if they just stand toe-to-toe and throw, I think there's a chance that Molly might get another KO. But I think if Goldy can stick to the outside, she has a bit more of a chance with the range because she's got some mad long kicks, eh?
I think, yeah, Goldy's going to need to sort of try and take that more point style approach. So she's going to have to try and look at, like you said, stick with the outside, hit and move, try and look for the counters when you're there, but not overextend and sort of get caught up in the flurries and try not to, because Molly's obviously going to come out and want to scrap, want to dogfight, look for the finish, and she's sort of not going to have to play into that. She's probably going to even get booed. Oh, I guess I don't boo when they fight as much, but I think that's the sort of style she needs to play. She needs to stick to the outside, stay long, use the kicks to get Molly away, whereas Molly's going to try and just rush her. The only problem, I think, is just that experience, whereas Molly's had twice as many fights as her, sort of thing, against better competition as well, sort of thing. So I think that even if she is on the outside, I think Molly's going to be able to close that distance pretty aggressively. And then I think, yeah, she's going to start. If she works her body early, I think it can open up for the cow up top. But I think if you just start headhunting from the start, I think it's going to be a bit harder because Gold is pretty hard to sort of hit if she's going to play that long game.
They're both a little bit T-Rexy, man. There's like their height's longer than their reach, but they got similar reach and height as well. So I can actually, just imagining it now, seeing these two, I can imagine them doing a bit of a flurry fest. Both of them just head down, sort of like fucking swimming and banging for at least parts of the fight. I hope it does because I kind of like watching that sort of fight sometimes. So let's see if they do that.
It's good for the fans. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So what do you reckon, bro? What's your final prediction?
I'm just going to go, I think Molly by a unanimous decision. I think she's just going to, probably 3-0 round. I think she's just going to be too expensive. I don't think she's going to finish her, to be honest. I think she's probably not going to be able to hit her clean enough and constantly enough. I know she's coming off the spinning back elbow, which is insane, but like, does more sort of like not a fluky technique. Obviously, it was a setup, but if you look, her last finish before that was back in like 2018 Cage Warrior. So it's been a while. So I'm just going to go with safe with the decision.
Yeah, man. I think it's just between the two things that we mentioned. You know, can Goldy stand back, use feints, use high kicks and that to keep the distance and get a win? Also, potentially win a bit in the clinch because she seems very strong. Or can Molly, you know, draw off that energy and land something decent? Can she get the KO? Can she just win with her flurries? Yeah, I don't know, but I'm kind of a little bit on the fence, but I think I'll go with Molly because I kind of like her style and I think she's got mad energy. So I'm picking Molly to the win as well, man.
She's entertaining fighter. Very entertaining.
For sure. So talking about Jack the Joker Hermansson versus Darren Till, another pretty exciting fight, man. This UFC London card is very good, eh? Like it's got heaps good fights and it's not even a proper UFC event.
Yeah, it's one of the better fight nights of the year, definitely.
Cool. And these two, man, I feel a bit nervous for Darren because you know, he's trying to, you know, rekindle his career and he's fighting a grappler, which is kind of his nemesis, right? Like grappling, because that's what's shown to be able to beat him in his last fight against Bumson. I want to say Bumson just from Izzy Brunson.
I didn't even hear that insult. That's a good one, actually.
No, I'm scared it's going to happen again because I like Darren Till. He's cool. He's entertaining. But Jack the Joker's all right too. But I'd like to see Darren Till get a win. But I don't know if he can in this one because of the grappling prowess of Jack. What do you think, man?
Man, it's hard because Darren Till, because we don't really know sort of where he's at because, like, obviously he was 17-0 after beat Thompson. Then he's 1-4 in his last 5, and his win being against. I thought he won that clearly against Kelvin. I don't think it should have been split. But then you look at what Kelvin's done recently, so it's sort of hard to gauge where he's at. When was his last fight? It was a while ago now. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, about 8-9 months ago, sort of thing against Brunson. But like you said, his kryptonite is that grappling. Obviously, he's going to be working at training with Hamzat and everything. But it just depends how much, because there's only so much you can improve in like a short time period sort of thing. Like it's hard, whereas Hermansson's been a grappler his whole career, his whole life, has that experience behind him, whereas Till's just trying to catch up with months of it. So I think he might, it's not so much like with Brunson, it's not so much a first, second takedown. It's more when he's tired and the third, the fourth, and the reshots and the scrambles, everything like that, where he seems to get caught. And it's a lot harder to get good in the scrambles and defend them than it is to actually get good off doing one good sprawl and defend that sort of thing. But then again, Till can crack, and we have seen Hermansson get hit. So it's going to be sort of interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, that's the other side of the picture is that, like people always say, all the fights end up on the ground. They all start standing, and Darren Till is definitely superior in the stand-up. When you look at Jack, he just looks a bit awkward, although he likes it. And that might be his weapon, that he is a little bit awkward in both the stand-up and the ground. But yeah, and when you look back at Darren fighting against Bumson, Bumson like kind of starts really good and destroys him for 2 rounds. In the 3rd round, Till was starting to look really good, but I think he was already so fatigued from the grapple that he just couldn't maintain it. Like he started really nice. I thought, fuck yeah, he's going to win this, because he just started coming on and smashing Brunson, and then suddenly he just got taken down and tried to really push out of it and just went, that's too hard to give up. Let's give my back and get choked, right? Like he was doing really well, man. But I think that's another question he's obviously geared to stand up. He can probably stand up all night, but can he wrestle for 5 rounds and against Jack? I don't know. That's what, like you said, later in the fight, it could be a bit more difficult for him.
Is this because it's a co-main? Are they just doing 3, or will it be 5?
It's only 3, right? It's co-main, yeah. So it should be 3 rounds. So yeah. So he's got more of a chance in this one. He can probably do it for 3, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think the 5 round would favour Jack more heavily. But the only problem with Jack is we saw against the Strickland fight, whereas if guys have good straight punches and they work their body on him, he does find it hard to shoot, because he has a few different entries, but a lot of times he normally will just throw a 1-2 and shoot behind it. There's not a lot of fakes. There's not a lot of different looks. He really tries to sort of just flick punches and just reach for it, or he's not really faking it coming up. He's not shooting off his kicks and everything. He normally uses his hands to set it up. And I think if Till can crack him early and make him respect his power, as long as Till doesn't overextend looking for the sort of big left hand, like we've seen him before, he throws it with full steam ahead. If it hits, it's going to knock him out. But if they slip and come under, he's on his back. So I think if Till can stay within himself and sort of pick his shots and stay rangy and use the kicks and utilize everything up for straight line, like his front kicks, his straights to the body, and really sort of get Jack hesitant to shoot. But Jack is pretty crafty. He doesn't mind slipping with punches to come in. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting play out. 3 rounds definitely favors Till, though, in my opinion.
Yeah, man. One other thing, Brunson took him down pretty easily, and usually with doubles, right? And then Hermansson, although he is that simple sort of entries and that he's quite fast. If you look at his, I was just watching him versus Cannonier. He had a super fast shot, man. I think if he can get taken, Brunson's a top level wrestler, but he's not quite as explosive as Hermansson. So I think he's still got a chance of taking him down pretty easy, even if he is a bit simple. But let's see, man. What else was I thinking about that one? Also, yeah, sorry. Whale Rider mentioned about Jack training with Hamzat. I think the photos that everyone's circulating, I think I read somewhere that they've trained a lot together, because they're both from Sweden, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty natural that top level fighters in their own country will train together, especially a smaller country with not many like top level fighters. So yeah, those guys are trained together. I don't know if they've trained together now, but yeah, that could be something. But I think it's just people creating some drama.
Yeah.
Bringing up old
I must
photos
say,
together.
Another thing with Jack is he gets hits early, because I remember watching him the Shabazian fight where Edmund probably had I was there live actually, and he probably had a good first 2-3 minutes, and then it was just that ground pressure which sort of crumbled him. It almost comes down to like the classic old striker versus grappler dynamic, is if Jack can get him down and implement his game plan, the sort of path to victory is there to beat Till. But if Till can keep it standing and stay long with his power strikes, you're probably going to see a Till KO, because they have seen Hermansson get cracked and get put to sleep before. So yeah, man, it's almost like I wonder who's the favorite actually. That'd be interesting to see.
I didn't look it up. You want to have a look at it?
I also think that fighting in London but it might give Hermansson a bit more of an edge, purely because Teal's going to be so rolled up. He's going to come out of that probably super fiery, I think.
Yeah.
And really try and look to make that statement. And it's the last thing you want to do. You don't want to sort of overextend early against a fresh wrestler.
Yeah, that's true, man. While we're at, I mentioned that he should have tried to fight Uriah Hall instead. I think that would have been a better fight for him. I think you'd probably overwhelm Hall a little bit. Hall's always disappointed me, man. I always thought he was like a potential superstar, but just his mind couldn't get into it, man. I feel like his athleticism is incredible, man. I just think he could never quite get his head around the fighting aspect.
Yeah, it seems like he was just never sort of put it together. Like he had the skills, the technique, and everything. It was just like that mental side. There was a few barriers he just couldn't get over with it.
Yeah, that's it, man. So what's your final pick for Hermansson versus Tilbro?
I think it's sort of like dire straits to Till, because realistically, if he loses this, he's fucking 1-5 in his last 6, and his last wins coming in 2019, so 3 years ago. So I think Till's going to have that fire in his belly. I think we're probably going to see a classic Darren Till big left hand KO. I'm going to say probably first round 2. I think he's going to clip him early.
That's cool, man. I hope it happens. I'm rooting for Till, but I'm actually picking Jack Hermansson. I just think that fighting against a ground fighter, again, he's going to get taken down and punished, get tired, and, either sub or on points, man. So that's my pick, eh?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see, because if he can stop for takedowns and sort of show his improvements, I think it's like, all right, we might see a resurgence of his career and everything. We might see back over top. But if we see him sort of, no disrespect to Hermansson, but if we see Hermansson take him down, implement his game plan and do the same thing, I think there's sort of blueprints written on Till sort of thing. And that won't be the end of him, but it will be like the end of sort of title contender sort of thing.
Next fight, we've got Curtis Blaydes versus Tom Aspinall. The way I'm looking at this one, tell me if you agree, man. I look at Blaydes as just that strong, big unit that's a great wrestler, versus Tom Aspinall, who's a nice, slick boxer and BJJ fighter. So it's kind of like when I look at those sort of skill sets, because I'm not really so sure about Aspinall's wrestling. You might know more than I do, but I know his strength seems to be BJJ and boxing, right? Whereas Blaydes is a wrestler and he's sort of growing in confidence in his striking. What are your thoughts on it, bro?
Man, this is a sick fight for the heavyweight division sort of thing. I think outside of like the champ, I think Blaydes is probably one of the hardest fights in the division, purely because his style, like he's not slow, but he's more sort of plodding. He takes his time, he looks for the shots, and he forces a wrestling, and he's got some of the most like brutal ground and pound in heavyweight. Like I still remember what he did to Overeem from his guard with them elbows and absolutely butchered him. But like you said, Aspinall is slick. I don't think his wrestling pedigree is as sort of high as Blaydes, but I think it's not so much his wrestling, which like against Volkov, it wasn't necessarily his actual wrestling. It was more just the timing of his slips, his movement and stuff. So I think if he can draw that out of Blaydes, we might see him have some success in the wrestling. We haven't seen anybody try to actually sort of go over super heavy grappling approach on Tom though, so we haven't really seen his defensive wrestling tested. Like we've seen him sprawl on shots, but we haven't seen guys like Blaydes who will shoot for a single, change it to a double, sit out, try and come around the back. We haven't seen him in the deeper sort of scramble exchanges. So I think that's where we're going to sort of see where Aspinall's ceiling really is.
A few of those fights that we watch, you see Blaydes is like kind of the bigger guy. In this case, he's actually smaller, like 3 centimeters smaller, although he's got a monster reach of 203 centimeters, which is 5 centimeters longer than Aspinall. But you think of Tom, he's a bigger, like the taller guy, and he's so fucking slick, man. He moves something like a middleweight or something. The way he moves, his hands are low, which scares me a little bit with Blaydes, because Blaydes is developing the KO power, but just the way he moves is so slick and fast. It's pretty incredible for that sort of, that sort of weight and height, the way he moves. I'm excited about his prospects in the division. So if he can get through someone like Blaydes, it's pretty fucking exciting, eh?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like it is a sort of prospect sort of, you can't even call him a prospect anymore. After what he's done in his last few fights, like what he's done to Volkov was, I don't think many people predicted like a fucking straight armbar finish on Volkov sort of thing, and how he made it look just off the takedowns, like pulling back, coming underneath him, controlling him well on the ground. I don't think he's going to have that same success if he does try to grapple with Blaydes. But I think then again, Aspinall will have the advantage of the feet because he's got some of the like fastest and slickest hands in the whole heavyweight division.
That's where I think there could be some danger for Blaydes too, because Blaydes seems to be like, what as they people talk about, like wrestlers, they start off using their skills, they focus on what they have and their strength. And after a while, they grow in the game of MMA and they start to learn they love grappling. They get a KO or two. They start to really love that and they tend to stay on that more because they get the love of the KO. And, it might not be the best idea against Aspinall. I think if he sticks to his roots, he's got more of a chance. But yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see because Aspinall's hand's super low as well, which just, like I said, it worries me that Blaydes just lands one of those big clunking fucking shots and hurts him as well. So, because he is a dangerous striker, even though he's a bit slow and not quite as skilled as Aspinall in the stand-up. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I think that's a problem with the heavyweight division. Like, even look at Francis, like a perfect example. Early on in his career, his technique was nowhere near the level of a guy who was knocking out. But purely just having that weight and that power behind his punches, he could put anyone to sleep. So same with Blaydes. So even though Aspinall does have the advantage on the feet skill-wise, and I'd say speed-wise as well, he still has to be careful because all it takes is that one big shot from a guy like Blaydes. And yeah, man, like I think this is going to be the more I think about it, the more sort of intrigued I am about this matchup because Blaydes who's he lost to? He's lost to, Lewis and Ngannou realistically twice. So Lewis was just that he was doing really, really well against Lewis. Like he was touching the body, faking the level changes, really sort of selling everything well. And like I thought he was watching that fight. I'm like, all right, if he can just do this for the next 5 rounds, he's gonna win the fight pretty comfortably, sort of thing. He's just doing enough to win, chopping the leg. And then all it took was Derek Lewis just to do that slight sort of turn and fucking like a 6-inch right uppercut and cleaned him and put him to sleep, sort of thing. The thing is, I don't think Aspinall has that same sort of power as Derek does for them sort of situations. I think Tom relies more on his speed and his sort of timing than the actual one-punch power. So I think if he's trying to, I don't think he will, but I think if he was trying to look for counter shots off the shot, it wouldn't be his best route. I think he's going to sort of need to take the lead foot and be sort of almost like that counter aggressive pressure where he wants to get Blaydes on the back foot so it's harder to shoot, draw the punches out of it, and then look to counter and lead where he can't really be sitting back waiting because guys he's like Blaydes, he's super explosive and he can grab a leg and run a double to the other side of the cage and sort of jam you there.
Yeah, man. So what's your final pick on this one?
Man, I think you just have to go with where the hype is at the moment. I think Aspinall is slick. Like, don't be wrong, this is sort of almost like a coin toss, but purely because you have to pick, I think Aspinall's get it done. I think it's purely going to come down to his speed at the end of the day. And I think, I don't think he's going to KO Blaydes though. I said I didn't think he was going to finish Volkan, so he might, but I don't think he's going to KO Blaydes. I don't know. Blaydes is pretty tough. Who knows? He might get tired. He might finish him, but I don't think it's going to be a big one-punch KO. I think it's probably more of a volume TKO if he does put him out. But right now, I'm going to pick Aspinall via decision.
Yeah, man, I'm kind of like disagreeing with you slightly again. I kind of want Aspinall to be there, and I think he's got the skills to do it. But I think he'll get a KO or a sub, man. Just confident in him, especially in that hometown, man. Yeah, I think there's a chance of a sub, like maybe damage him in the stand-up and then sneak something in if he can somehow work the takedown himself.
Or something like that.
Yeah, just get a neck was the main image I've got in my head.
Yeah,
and it just showing off his last win, and he's talked about how he's not being able to show his grappling prowess, man. So yeah, he reckons he can do so much more than he's been doing in that. He's been doing pretty well in the British area for grappling in the past. So yeah, we'll see.
I thought he showed his grappling great, where he fucking double-legged Arlovsky and choked him out in like 10 seconds after he got him on the ground.
So he's shown pretty good. If that's not his best, then yeah, we got a lot.
Yeah, fuck. Wonder what his ceiling is. What do you think's next for Aspinall if he wins though?
Title shot? I think he's still probably got a couple to go. Like he'll probably have to fight someone like maybe the winner of
Bam Bam Man.
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah, that's a pretty exciting one too. Fuck, I hope to fucking hell that Bam Bam gets it. He's a very fucking strong underdog in that one, and the odds is like 5-1 or something, which I reckon is not a bad bet.
We need Ngannou to go to boxing, Tom and Bam Bam to win, and then have that for the heavyweight world title in Australia.
I want to see Bam Bam fight fucking Garnu, man. Fucking, he's got a chance of KOing any motherfucker. So
He does, hey.
yeah.
He's got that style for it.